This teenage beauty queen was left alone with her boyfriend's baby for 35 minutes. And in that time, this innocent baby suffered a terrible death. At the time, Trinity Madison Pogue was an 18-year-old freshman at Georgia Southwestern, and by all appearances, Trinity was the perfect Southern young lady. Throughout high school, she got straight A's, she was a babysitter, she was a nursing student in college, also getting straight A's. Trinity was also a pageant beauty queen. She had just been crowned Miss Donaldsville, which made her eligible to compete in an even bigger upcoming pageant. At the time, Trinity was also in a new, pretty serious relationship with an older guy, 24-year-old Julian Williams. And to Trinity's dismay, her new boyfriend Julian came with a little bit something extra. A baby. Jackson Drew, who also was called Romeo or JD, was the 18-month-old baby boy of Trinity's boyfriend Julian, who he had with a previous girlfriend. At the time, JD lived with his father Julian and Julian's sister. 18-year-old Trinity did not like that her boyfriend Julian had a baby with another woman. She wanted a boyfriend, but she didn't want the burden of the baby. She's a college freshman that wants to go out to frat parties, not stay home and change diapers. But instead of ending the relationship with Julian and finding herself a boyfriend that does not have a baby, Trinity just got resentful and angry and hateful, and she took it all out on this little innocent baby boy JD. Trinity was jealous of JD's mom. Trinity wanted to have kids with Julian one day, but she wanted those to be Julian's only kids, and she definitely did not want to play stepmom. And it got to the point that Trinity just had so much anger, resentment, and hatred and jealousy towards this innocent little baby. And Trinity definitely wasn't hiding it. She would tell her boyfriend how much she hated his kid. She would tell all her friends. She was constantly texting her roommates about how much she hated little baby JD, and those texts do come back up later. On the weekend of January 13th, 2024, Julian brought his 18-month-old son, JD, to stay at his 18-year-old girlfriend's college campus, so the three of them, Trinity, Julian, and JD, would all be staying in Trinity's freshman dorm room. And I'm not the first one to point out that a college freshman dorm room is no place for a baby. Throughout the entire first night, Trinity is texting her roommate about how annoyed she is that JD is there, how much she wants to get away from him, how much she needs a break from the baby. Julian and JD were sleeping on an air mattress that was on the floor, and allegedly the first night in his sleep, JD rolled over and he fell off the mattress. It was like a little fall. He fell like maybe that far and he was fine. The day before, JD is seen by people and he's totally fine. The day after this fall, JD is seen by people and he looks totally fine. He doesn't have any visible injuries. So the three of them, Trinity, Julian, and JD, wake up the following morning. It's Sunday, January 14th. Like I said, JD seems totally fine. He's up and about being a toddler, and he's fed a breakfast of Frito chips and Mountain Dew inside of a sippy cup. Trinity and Julian get a little hungry, so around 11 a.m. noon, Julian leaves to go pick up a pizza, leaving JD in this college dorm room with Trinity alone. This 18-year-old girl was alone with this baby boy for about 35 minutes, and in that time, something deadly happened. Because by the time Julian got back, his 18-month-old baby JD was unresponsive and not breathing. This little baby boy was rushed to the hospital. He had fluid coming out of his nose, he had bruises on his neck and his face, the back of his head was completely swollen, and within 4 hours, he was no longer with us. Little baby, 18-month-old JD had succumbed to his injuries and he passed away around 4 p.m. at the hospital. These were very serious, severe injuries. This little baby boy suffered damage and injuries to the outside and the inside of his body. His skull was fractured, his brain was bleeding, and he had significant injuries to some of his organs, including a lacerated liver. And his cause of death was concluded to be from blunt force trauma to his head and his torso. And since 18-year-old Trinity Pogue was the only one with JD when he suffered these injuries, she was taken into custody and she was arrested and being accused of beating this toddler to death. Trinity was Googling a bunch of things on skull fractures and brain bleeds, which does not look good when you're the only one found with a baby suffering from a fractured skull and bleeding to his brain. Trinity changed her story like a dozen times about how and when little JD suffered his injuries. But at trial, Trinity's defense was that JD suffered his injuries when he rolled off the air mattress the night before. But expert after expert got up and testified at this trial and said that the injuries that this little baby boy had were so severe and catastrophic, it would have been impossible to have been caused by a 2-foot fall off a bed. And that the injuries that this baby had were so severe and catastrophic that they would have caused immediate change to this baby. But JD was perfectly fine until he was left alone with Trinity. At her trial, text messages that Trinity sent her roommate were read about how much she hated JD, how she wanted to punch him or even run him over with her car. Some of these text messages were, "I can't stand being around JD anymore. He hates me and I hate him. I feel so much anger towards him that I want to punch him. LMFAO. I know that sounds bad. And I'm so angry, I wish I could run him over with my car." Trinity was sending text messages about how much she hated JD 15 minutes before he was found unresponsive and on the brink of death. That does not sound like a coincidence. The prosecution's theory was that all this anger and hate that Trinity had towards this little baby JD finally boiled over. She was left alone with this baby yet again, and he was probably acting like a baby. Maybe he was crying, maybe he was throwing a fit, or maybe JD just wanted Trinity's attention and love, and she exploded into violence. So she beat him to death. The defense argued that no one saw Trinity do any of this. There was no physical evidence that she was the one that did this. They argued that she was only 18 years old, she was a straight A nursing student, she was an experienced babysitter, that Trinity wanted to be a mother herself one day. She had been left alone with JD many times without incident. This trial just concluded and it was heavily publicized. I did my best to put together like a pretty thorough overview, but if you think I got anything wrong or if you think I left out something pretty significant, please let me and everyone else know in the comments. The jury deliberated for like 2 or 3 hours before coming back with their verdict, which is not a long time at all. They found Trinity Pogue guilty on 5 out of the 6 charges, which included felony murder, aggravated battery, and first-degree child cruelty. They only found her not guilty of malice murder. That was actually the first verdict that they read out, and I have Trinity's reaction to her verdict on camera. When she hears that first not guilty, she breaks out into tears. To me, it looks like she thinks that she got away with everything, and to me, it kind of looks like she's putting on an act, because when she hears guilty to the rest of the charges, she just looks up, no emotion, no tears.
The verdict reads as follows as to each count. On count 1, it says, "We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty." On counts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the verdict reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty." Of felony murder, 2 counts, aggravated battery, 2 counts, and cruelty to child in the first degree. Y'all can have a seat.
The now 20-year-old Trinity Pogue was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years to be served concurrently, and she will be eligible for parole after serving 30 years. So she will be eligible for parole when she's 50 years old. And if you made it to the end of this case, thank you so much for listening to JD's story. I know it was really hard to get through, but that's why cases like this are so important to talk about. Little baby JD was a baby. He did not ask to be around Trinity, and he was hated for it, and then he was killed for it. He was completely innocent in all of this, and my heart truly goes out to all of his loved ones. If you made it to the end of this video, again, thank you so much for listening to his story. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, but please do it respectfully. While you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that was suggesting that I cover this case, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.